In this video, we'll look at short answer questions. Short answer questions require students to have a higher level of mastery because they must recall the answer rather than simply recognizing it in a list of choices. Short answer questions require more input than completion questions, which require a word or two, and less input than an essay question, which can require a paragraph of information. There are two types of short answer questions, objective and subjective. The primary difference is how the questions are graded. For both short answer question types, students must provide a text answer. Objective short answer questions are graded automatically if they are part of an online assignment. For that reason, they're best for questions that have a couple words or a short phrase as an answer. Subjective short answer questions must be graded manually. Therefore, they're perfect for questions that need a sentence or two as an answer. This is what a short answer question looks like in an online assignment. Notice that there is an input palette that allows students to enter special characters and symbols. We'll look at that later in this video. This is what a short answer question looks like on a printed test. Let's start by looking at objective short answer questions. Let's click the New Question button and create an objective short answer question. Let's enter the text of the question. My question reads, when one or more substances change into a new substance, it is a... The correct answer for this question is chemical change. Let's go to the Answer and Grading tab and enter that text. We'll type chemical change as the answer. I'd also like to accept chemical reaction as a correct answer. I can allow for alternative correct answers by placing them on a separate line. Let's add a new line and enter chemical reaction on that line. Students can enter either of these phrases and the question will be marked as correct. Note, you can also enter the phrase any answer accepted surrounded by two asterisks as the answer, and students will receive credit for the question regardless of what they enter. Let's click OK to save the question. I've created this question in a test so we can preview the question as an online item. Let's click the Test menu and then select Preview Online Test. Let's type chemical change and click the check button. The system shows that as a correct answer. Now, let's enter the alternative correct answer, chemical reaction. The system shows that as a correct answer as well. Now let's remove the word reaction and check the answer. The system marks that as incorrect. So, everything looks good for this question. We've created an objective short answer question that grades automatically. Let's see how a subjective short answer question is different. Let's click the New Question button and select Subjective Short Answer. You'll notice that the new Subjective Short Answer question dialog box looks the same as the dialog box for a new Objective Short Answer question. We'll add our question text to the word processor. Our question is, in a sentence or two, define the term hypothesis. Since the students' answers could vary, this is a perfect subjective short answer question. Let's go to the Answer and Grading tab and enter an answer. For a subjective short answer question, since it will be graded manually, you can enter a recommended answer or outline the elements that should be included in the answer. For my definition of a hypothesis, I've entered a tentative explanation of what has been observed. When grading the question, an instructor can decide if each student's answer matches that phrase closely enough to be correct. Let's click OK to save the question and then preview the test to see the difference between our subjective and objective short answer questions. First, let's enter chemical change as the answer for the objective short answer question we created. Notice that the check button is enabled. If we click it, the system will automatically grade the question and show that we have the correct answer. Now, let's select the second question, which is the subjective short answer question we just created. Let's enter the suggested answer that I typed on the Answer and Grading tab. Notice that for the subjective short answer question, the check button is not enabled. That's because subjective short answer questions are not automatically graded. The system can't tell us if the answer is correct or not. The instructor has to grade it manually. We've created both an objective and a subjective short answer question and looked at how they differ. Next, we'll see how we can create a question that uses a different input mode. So far, we've created questions using the basic entry mode like this example. The basic entry mode has a space for students to type the answer and a symbol palette that contains all the available symbols. If you use an entry mode other than basic, students will have a text entry area with a button bar that allows them to format text and a symbol palette to enter special characters. The formatting and symbol options available depend on the entry mode you choose. To look at a different student entry mode, I've begun creating an objective short answer question that asks students to write the equation for hydrogen gas reacting with oxygen gas to form water. In order for students to answer this question, they'll need to enter chemical symbols with subscripts as well as an arrow. To do that, they'll need to use an entry mode other than the basic mode. Let's go to the Answer and Grading tab to see how to do this. Right now, the student text entry mode is set to basic. For a student to be able to enter an equation with subscripts and symbols, we need to select another entry mode. There are 8 different types of entry modes: basic, math, chemistry, science, French, German, Spanish, and complete. All of the modes except the basic mode allow students to enter formatted text. For this question, I'm going to select the chemistry mode. If you have questions about what symbols are available in the different entry modes, you can click the Help button next to the Student Text Entry Mode dropdown. Now I'll type the first part of the equation, turning the subscript button on and off as needed. To insert the arrow, I'm going to click the Insert Symbol button. If you've used the Insert Symbol button before, you'll notice that I have fewer symbols available than normal. This is because I've selected chemistry in the Student Text Entry Mode dropdown. These are the symbols students will be able to choose from when answering the question. Selecting the entry mode before you enter the answer helps ensure that when you're writing the answer, you're only using symbols that the students will have access to when they answer the question. Let's click the right arrow and finish entering the equation. Let's click OK to save the question and then preview it in an online test. Before we try the new question, we'll look at the first objective short answer question we wrote. It uses the basic entry mode, so it has an entry blank and a symbol palette so students can enter special characters. Let's compare it to the question we just wrote. This question uses the chemistry text entry mode, so there is a text entry field and a button bar. There are buttons for bold, italic, superscripts, subscripts, and a symbol palette that contains special characters specific to chemistry. Let's see how a student can use these tools to answer the question. Since this is an objective short answer question, I can check my answer. What I've entered is correct. So that's how you can use a different text entry mode to allow students to format their answer and enter special characters. And those are just some of the ways you can use objective and subjective short answer questions.